Hey everybody, welcome to the Art Hub. I'm excited. I'm using the GoPro today. Today's just gonna be a chit chat. We're not gonna do any kind of lessons and things like that. And really, as you know, this is about oils versus acrylics. Some of you are getting into art for the first time, perhaps in the painting world. Maybe you come from watercolor. Maybe you've been painting a long time. You're like, hey, what's this bozo have to say about acrylics versus oils? The big debate that's lasted not centuries, but some time. And so let's just talk a little bit about pros and cons. Where should I start? Where should I go? Why should I know both? That kind of thing. So, and we'll just kind of hit these up. The big difference between oil and acrylic painting really is the material itself, the oil or acrylic. Acrylic is like a plastic. Think of that as a plastic, which will go bad at some point. As far as like your old tubes of paint, those won't last forever. But because it's a plastic and hard and dries, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it and go on top of it and play with it and do that, scrape it off, what have you, just paint over it. So think of acrylics as kind of more modern technology. It's plastic. Oils is literally dried up pigments. Okay, think of it as powder, pigments coming from rocks or plants, things like that are ground up in a medium. When I was grinding up some of my oil paints, which I have a video of, which was linseed oil, right? So you could use linseed, a lot of different types of things, but that is actually an oil. That is different because it lasts forever in a way. I have some tubes of paint that are 50, 60 years old and they work still. So that's kind of fun, is that oil painting just lasts forever. You can go to the swap meet, buy a bunch of oil paints, a little harder to find sometimes, and they'll work. Whereas acrylics, you can't buy old acrylics. You could buy a couple years old, but you can't go 20 years. They'll dry up and they just be a big block. So that's one thing. So there's the fact that
one has more of a longevity than the other as far as using, and because of that there's an expense too. Oils are usually more expensive to buy. The paints themselves are more expensive, and because of that though, they command a higher price when you sell a painting. So strangely enough, the art world, not all the time but generally speaking, I painted this in oil, I can sell it for a higher price than I paint in acrylics. That might just be the, prejudice element of the art community, but oils do command a little bit higher price. The paints themselves cost more, and the process of making them, the process of using them is more, because you now have to add mediums, you have to do things to it to use. Generally, oil painters don't just go right out of the tube and go down on it. Whereas an acrylic, you could. You're going to mix paints with others, but you can just kind of go right there. But the big draw for oil is more than just the fact that it's expensive or you can command more prices and that kind of thing, but it's the vibrancy of the colors. It's the ability to blend, and the colors are more vibrant. Now, this is debatable actually, because while generally it is regarded that oils are better as far as just like light fast or vibrancy, there are some acrylics now that are quite freaking amazing. There's a company down, I think they're based in LA, I could be wrong, called Nova Colors. Go look up Nova Colors. These guys are like freaking powerful. So it's not just that your cadmium red oil painting from Old Holland is going to be so much better than the cadmium red acrylic. You get some Nova Colors up in that biscuit and it will be what you want. So that argument of vibrancy I think still exists, but with technology, acrylics can still like can pack a big punch as far as that goes. The other thing to think about as a new artist is the cleaning, the process. Oil paint, I've now kind of transitioned to pretty much all oil painting. But it is a much bigger mess. I always had to I have to gown on basically, like I'm in some kind of clean room, because the oil paint, I feel like it gets everywhere. Because it doesn't dry, it somehow just goes places and just lives everywhere. You have to clean the brush, the cleaning of the brushes, the different chemicals that you need to use perhaps to do it. I am simple. I use mineral spirits, and then I will wash it with soap and water. Sometimes there's a smell though, certain things, turpentine, there's different things people use historically which have an odor, kind of Damar varnish has an odor, things like that. Whereas with acrylics, it's water, dude. Soap and water, 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 water. That's it. Acrylics is easy. Acrylics also dries quicker. Oils traditionally take a lot longer to dry. Now, we could kind of like even these out a bit too, because you can buy mediums. You can buy, I actually have it. Here, let me go grab it real quick. You can buy, this guy right here, which is like a, this is Gamblin's solvent-free gel. Solvent-free gel. Doesn't have a smell to it. It's actually really nice. It's like a gel. So instead of using oil, like a linseed oil, to mix with your paint, you can use this, and it'll speed up the drying time. There's also other stuff. This isn't the only thing. There's a bunch of different accolades and things you can use to speed up drying time for oils. Same for acrylics. There are mediums you can add to the acrylic to make it last a little bit longer, so you can kind of have that impasto kind of flavor, which leads us to the kind of style of painting. Traditionally, because of oil it does dry, it takes longer to dry, the types of things you can do with it as far as the process of using a palette knife, kind of this impasto, you know, alla prima, just going right then and there on it. With acrylics, traditionally you couldn't do that. But now, again, I have a gel medium that works just like that. You can use a palette knife with acrylics. You can pretty much simulate a lot of the characteristics of the oil paintings in acrylics. So, that said, if acrylics are cheaper, if acrylics can kind of simulate a lot of the same things as far as the process of painting as oils, and it is easier to use because it's just water, and it can be just as vibrant. You can find some Nova color or something that would be just as good, then why freaking use oil? And I think a lot of it has to do with the idea that oils are just a step up. Like there's an expertise needed for oil painting. That to be a big boy, you got to go into oils. And I want to push back on that, because while I have done that, I don't necessarily think you need to. I don't necessarily think that as a artist you have to do oils. You could stick with acrylics. I mean, to be very frank, most of my kind of experience professionally is in watercolors. All the graphic novel work I did was all analog watercolors. So, and that is the cheapest of the three, but potentially the hardest too of the three to like really make it work. The problem is that watercolors don't command the prices of the others if you're selling originals. So I don't know, it's just really personal preference. I would say everybody should dabble with them all. If I were just coming into like painting, I would probably go with acrylics, because a lot of those techniques of color mixing, laying down color, all those kind of elements of the process of painting, you're going to do in acrylics. Okay? There's only a couple other things you're going to play with oils that you don't do, which is really the medium. That's just really, you're working with your mediums and your different things like that, your blendings. But generally speaking, it's all going to be the same as far as just the process of making the art. There's another thing you can do too, to kind of like play with both, is a lot of people do an underpainting in the acrylics. So that's what I did with this one. So this is actually, can't tell, it's in the process, but I did an underpainting all in acrylics with burnt umber and some sienna. And then now I'm going on top of that with grays and all that in oils. So the underpainting is basically, and I'll do another video of that, basically to set your values, right? So I know the values of everything and then I go on top of it. So in that way, I actually painted twice. I painted once, kind of in a black and white mode, we'll say, with umber. And then I'm gonna paint on top of it with oils. So you get kind of both in there. And a lot of people do that. A lot of painters will do that. So that's another way to kind of like, it's not like, okay, now I'm in this one thing and now I never touch the other kind of mediums. You do both a lot. So I don't know if that makes any sense. This is pretty basic stuff, but I thought I would share this video with you guys. Welcome to this channel, the Art Hub. I'm very excited about it. We still have the sister channel, Art of Comics, but here we're gonna really dive into things like that. And the next video I'm gonna do is we're gonna talk about inks. My favorite inks. Inks are awesome, and we'll talk about all the cool inks that are out there. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care, bye.